cartilage in my right hip. I've had some stem cells and stuff done, which actually helped out a bit, but it always nags, and I don't want to get the surgery. So I'm looking forward to using this on that dull nagging pain that I have all the time. You think it'll be successful there?
Yeah, just rub it in every day. Now you'll feel a little bit of that kind of pain reliever initially. You'll feel it. It's kind of like a menthol feel. But then pay attention to how that hip feels through the day. And, just do it day in and day out. And you'll start to realize, wait a minute, maybe it is. Remember, the Federal Trade Commission allows topical peptides to be used because they're safe and they clearly penetrate through the skin and, can affect localized joints. So it's a great product.
I work out a lot and I use peptides to help me recover from things. I have one in injectable, one pill form. Helps promote hormone growth. These peptides are all the rage right now. Can you explain to me why peptides? They've been around for a while, but it seems like they've made this resurgence back onto the scene.
Well, the Federal Trade Commission, again, allows the shorter peptides for topical use and then, IV for specialty use. But I can tell you that because they're targeted, they're not monoclonal antibodies, they're not vaccines, they're essentially broken up by our natural enzymes. They're safe. And the ones that are targeted typically are trying to, recover tissue, stimulate recovery proteins. By the way, the Wellness Company has a drop, which is a peptide. It's retatrutide. It's a glucagon-like peptide. Semaglutide is a peptide. But when they're in a form, what's called an aquasome, and that's a specialized capsule that allows it to, not a capsule, but like a droplet that allows it to survive the GI tract. Now we're really talking about effects in the body that are wonderful.
And what are those effects?
Well, for the, for the genre of drugs in this GLP area, it actually helps with weight loss, helps people condition. Most people are using drop and semaglutide to lose weight. Others are using peptides for recovery. You may use it, I know you're pretty buff in the gym working out, using it for muscle recovery, overall body recovery.
Yeah. They've been amazing for me, and I can't wait to use the TheraBlue. We got some other products to talk about on this Black Friday. We'll do that, but I did want to get to the heart of some of the work that you've been doing. Now, this study that you did that connected the vaccines to autism, and specifically, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I'm probably going to oversimplify this, but the large number of vaccines given at one time to autism, are you amazed that amongst my circles, it's gotten great traction? Amongst mainstream media circles, I'm not sure it's gotten any, Doc.
Well, it's interesting. I was watching CNN last night, Grant, and they interviewed Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana. He was on, and he said, there are so many studies that have, discounted this effect, dismissed the relationship. And then the CNN announcer said, there's plenty of studies and that have dismissed it. She looked so uncertain because probably she's talked to a lot of her friends who have kids with autism, and it happened right after they took a battery of vaccines. What Cassidy is missing, and what the McCullough Foundation report that was published came out, is called The Determinants of Autism Spectrum Disorders, published on October 27th, 2025 in the European Commission Open Air Zenodo preprint server. Grant, it's already had 200,000 downloads and reads. An average paper is less than 250. I mean, this is a bombshell. The CDC, after you're looking at this for 3 weeks, changed its statements on autism. What we outline is there's 29 studies that falsely dismissed the relationship between autism and vaccines, and the reason why they missed the association. The reason why they're not evidence-based, as the CDC says, is that they didn't have a true control group of truly unvaccinated children. They didn't interview the parents. They didn't confirm the vaccine cards or records, and they didn't examine the children to see if they really had autism. So these were studies done from administrative databases. They weren't reliable. And now we have the vast majority of studies that have weighed in, a much larger number, have concluded, I believe the number was 107 studies have indicated now that there is a connection between a big bundle of vaccines and autism in a susceptible child. So if a child was born prematurely or had older parents or had certain common genetic factors or in utero exposures to long-term psychiatric drugs in the mother, then gets a big battery of vaccines, that's the recipe for brain inflammation or encephalitis. And then a outcome of encephalitis is this post-encephalitic syndrome of autism.
So how did your study work? Did you guys go and review all of these different studies and then basically summarize it, or were you there actually testing and doing the studies yourself?
No, we compiled the entire body of literature. We received a grant to do so. We took all the studies in, including the most recent study entered into the Senate record in the most recent hearing presented by Attorney Aaron Siri. And so ours is a systematic review, an analysis of what exists. And because we extracted every single study into data tables, people can review them. Our analysis is unassailable, Grant. There's not a single credible person who said that.
All right.
They can't agree with our findings. Now, there's been a few ad hominem attacks, and people are concerned about vaccine hesitancy. But the science in the McCullough Foundation report is solid.
Well, I see what the media is doing is that even if some attack you, others just totally stay away from it. They don't want to give any publicity to it because they know it's unassailable, as you said. They can't attack it. So they're just going to ignore it and hope nobody sees it. Do you think that's what's happening?
No, I mean, the CDC has already changed its statements with 200,000 downloads and reads. This is worldwide now. It's been on almost all the independent media stations. It's being mentioned on CNN, and obviously they're picking and choosing the reaction, so it's made it onto the mainstream media. And what's going to happen now is HHS said they will do their own report, which they should. I think they should do their own original research. I think the parents now should be interviewed. What happened when their kids took vaccines? There should be thousands, tens of thousands of parents interviewed about what happened when their kids took vaccines. And there should be a control group where nothing happened with the kids. And that's called a prospective cohort study. And, we should start to see, instead of the CDC doing nothing, I mean, we should have large-scale prospective cohort studies. We're talking 20 to 40 to 100,000 kids should be studied. There are that many with autism. They deserve our attention.
So I'm curious, when you call into question these studies that were out there were flawed, they didn't do all these things, do the authors of those studies reach out to you? Do you reach out to them? Is there any kind of back and forth that they try to defend themselves?
No, it's completely independent. This is really important. So we don't want other people's opinions in there. People have asked, well, how come this group wasn't involved or that group involved? Independence is really important. So when the CDC does their own report, I should not be involved with that at all, Grant. It should be completely independent. And so when we get independent groups coming up with findings, then we can actually begin to assemble them. The big, what's called Danish cohort study, Hidkevin and Madsen are the ones who published from it. They recently came out with a paper on aluminum in vaccines, which is not a good thing. And they published an erratum, or basically a concession in Annals of Internal Medicine, saying, whoops, we missed a couple thousand kids with autism, so our original conclusions aren't valid. So even some of the authors themselves are invalidating their studies. Wow. They know that they missed this vaccine autism connection, and McCullough Foundation nailed it for the country and the world.
Do you think they missed it, or do you think they ignored it because they're being funded by the big pharmaceutical complex and the universities that are being funded by the pharmaceutical complex, they know not to rock the boat?
Yeah, I think it's the latter, Grant. The biopharmaceutical complex is so strong. There's 20 studies that have indicated that being hesitant in taking a vaccine is not healthy skepticism like you and I would think. it's actually a mental disease, that if you are hesitant in taking a vaccine, you have a mental disease. So that's how far this has gone, Grant. This biopharmaceutical complex doesn't want to see a single manuscript that would lead to anybody being hesitant or questioning a vaccine. That's exactly what Bill Cassidy said last night on CNN. He said, listen, I don't want to see anything that would cause a mother or a father to have any discussion on this. They don't want any questions.
Wow.
They don't want any, people doing their own research.
Well, any mother and father out there ought to be doing their own research, watching podcasts like this. Hey, take in all sides. And then you know what? I trust people to make decisions for themselves, right? You find people that you tend to trust, and then, you take everything for what it's worth and make a decision when you bring in lots of information into your brain. You don't need to just listen to somebody, but, when you blindly pay attention to somebody, boy, we learned our lesson on that one, Doc.
Mm-hmm. Well, Grant, the thing I don't like about what Bill Cassidy is saying is what he's saying is parents shouldn't do their own research.
Wow.
Parents shouldn't ask any questions. Parents shouldn't have any hesitancy on this. What he's saying is, listen, take this whole schedule of vaccines and shut up.
And he's a doctor, right?
He's a doctor. He's a gastroenterologist, a hepatologist. He's not somebody who's considered famous or considered a doctor of authority. But as a senator, I can tell you the people in Louisiana are not happy right now because he's not encouraging parents to do their own research. We should always do that. People should always have the right to answer questions. And that's the reason why they go to Stinchfield, the podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you. It seems to me like there's a lot of doctors out there that don't like to be questioned. And so now there's this whole movement to question your doctor. It must be driving some of them crazy.
I'm a little bit late for the pre-taping, Grant, for that reason alone. I mean, I have people with a lot of questions. They travel a long distance. They write them down. And, doctors have to schedule the time or take the time to answer every question. I finish at the end by, any more questions, any more questions, any more questions. I give all my patients my cell phone because I know they're going to have more questions. But that's our job as doctors and nurses. We're supposed to answer questions.
All right. Can you take me back, Dr. McCullough? You clearly one of the premier cardiologists in the world, I'm going to say. And now you've become such an authoritative voice on everything COVID, the vaccines, and all of these things with the studies. But when you were a cardiologist before the COVID deal, were you speaking for pharmaceutical companies? Were you making money speaking on the tours? Does that all change? Do they shut you down? What role did that play on you? Do you mind taking me into that world?
Well, like most academic physicians, I interfaced with the pharmaceutical companies. They fund about 2/3 of research. So yeah, I had 7 figures in pharmaceutical research funding. It's not money that went to me personally, but it paid for research staff, facilities, testing, medication.